The news day continues here on One News Now. I'm Danny Laurel. Now here are the biggest stories from the economic and corporate fronts. Now analysts say inflation likely peaked in December as the demand during the holidays and damage caused by typhoons may have pushed food prices higher. A Business World poll of 11 analysts yielded a median estimate of 8.3% for December inflation. Now this falls within the Bangko Central's forecast of 7.8% to 8.6%. And if realized, this would bring full-year inflation for 2022 to 5.8%, which matches the BSP's average forecast. December inflation would also be the quickest since the 9.1% print recorded back in November of 2008 at the height of the global financial crisis. Economists and analysts said higher prices of agricultural products may have been a primary driver of faster inflation last month. Inflation data for December will be released on Thursday, January 5th. Now, heads up motorists, oil companies are implementing big-time fuel price hikes on the first week of 2023. Now, starting today, January 3rd, prices of gasoline will climb by 2 pesos and 90 centavos per liter. Diesel, on the other hand, will see an increase of 2 pesos and 10 centavos per liter, while kerosene will see a price hike of a little over 3 pesos per liter. This marks the third week of price hikes for gasoline and kerosene. It's a brand new year or day for the Philippine economy, and it's time to get the wheels turning. Here to help us understand the outlook, we have with us Mike Ricafort, Chief Economist of RCBC. Happy New Year, Sir Mike, and thank you for the buena mano on this show this morning.
Hi, Danny, and to your viewers. Happy New Year and good morning to everyone.
Sir, let's kick off with the boogeyman, which is inflation. So we haven't gotten the figures for December, but the estimate is well around 8.3%. Yours a bit more optimistic, so to speak, with 8%. Several are saying this is the peak. What are you telling us to our viewers here? How is the first quarter going to fare compared to at least the last quarter of last year?
Well, Danny, because first, inflation is year on year. So we're already approaching the anniversary of the Russia-Ukraine war. When the war started, oil was around $92 per barrel for the NYMEX. Now it's doing around 80. It's still lower. We started the year in 2022 at $75. So it practically erased all the increase. At the early part of the war, March 7, it reached a high of $130. And the last time we saw the elevated oil price was $123 in the middle of July. So it's still way lower. It's practically, that's almost $50 lower. So, that's very much pronounced already in developed countries. We already saw inflation in the US already easing to near 1-year lows.
Okay.
And in other developed countries as well. But so that's already one. Quantitatively, the higher base effects would lead to slower year-on-year inflation starting the first quarter. And of course, we already crossed the new year and we're done and over with the holiday season. Even for many, many years and decades, during the holiday season, there's always that seasonal increase in demand and in prices. Now we have crossed the year, so that's another factor. That's why it's a very good premise to presume that the peak may have been seen already or about to be seen, because the leeway is somewhere up until the early part of February, prior to the war. That's the leeway for the peak, technically. But because of the demand and supply balance, so more likely we could have seen it already during the holiday season that ended in December. And the peak is around 8% levels. Because, well, of course, it's kind of unfortunate that we had this shear line that caused floodings in some parts of the southern Philippines, especially some parts of the Visayas and Mindanao that they have hit. And cause agricultural damage on some agricultural areas, regions and provinces that have that contribute to agriculture. But prospectively, we're now moving towards the summer season. That there will be less weather disruptions in terms of storms and floodings. So that would already help alleviate thus the planting season as we cross the year. So that would definitely help
Mhm.
increase the supply. Give it a few weeks, a few months, the planting season, and then the supply would follow, and that would
Sir,
also
just to,
help.
sorry to interrupt that, because I wanted to go back to the oil question. And we have here on on the Bloomberg terminal the price of oil. Like you mentioned, it's 79.87 na now from the peaks. Can you say definitively that this level is going to be remaining? We are not going to be seeing the crazy levels that we saw in 2022. And with the situation of the Ukraine war, can we say that, that effect of the war on the prices of our oil and transport sector, tapos na po yun?
Well, there's a good likelihood, yes.
Okay.
Because the central banks have done their jobs. They have raised rates, like the Fed. They have progressively raised rates. That increase the odds of recession. That's the unintended consequence for raising rates, because they're in their quest to bring down elevated inflation and try to achieve achieve the price stability mandate and stable prices, as they would do everything at their disposal, their funds toolkit to achieve that. And it's bearing fruit already. Oil is practically the lowest in nearly a year.
Okay.
And the only thing that would upset that, corollary to that would be the reopening of China, which is the second biggest economy in the world, and that's also the biggest importer of oil and the biggest importer and buyer of other major global commodities. So that's why it picked up a bit to 1 month highs lately, near 1 month
Okay.
highs. We already came from as low as a little over 70, and now it's up by nearly $10 because of that. And but of course, there are offsets to that. The fact that the reopening in China led to some surge in cases, and of course, that's manifested by the requirements for negative COVID tests by some country for some inbound travelers from China. So that could be an upsetting factor, though. That could, because it's still a question mark. It's still a mystery until if the
But sir, on the inflation point, no, I'll get back to you on the China point because it's a very big question mark as well. But on the inflation point, you mentioned you're expecting it, at least it may have reached the peak on December or very, very soon. What is a normal level of inflation for the Philippines given the type of growth that we saw last year and the type of growth that we will be seeing next year, for you to say na, it's normal? Is 8% normal? Is 6% normal? If bumaba ba siya, is that a good sign?
Well, we run through the figures, Danny. So what's really considered normal? Of course, it's within the inflation target of it should be below 4%.
Okay.
So the range
Malayo
is
pa.
being 2 to 4%. But when we're running through the figures, that's already possible towards the fourth quarter of this year, 2020.
Okay.
It may take, we need to be kind of patient, but it's moving towards that direction.
Okay.
So there's a great chance actually for that to, it's already easing actually. Why is it important, Danny? Globally, the easing of oil and commodity prices already we've seen the peak in the first quarter, so that would and more importantly, the anniversary of the wage hikes of at least 6% happened in June to July of 2022, and the
Okay.
anniversary of the transport fare hikes. And we all know higher wages, higher transport fares led to second-round inflation effects, higher prices of other goods and services. So by the second half of this year, the year-on-year easing of inflation that would accelerate the easing or the decline of the year-on-year inflation rate, and it would move towards 5%, then gradually to 4%, and eventually as low as 3% year-on-year towards the end of the year.
Okay.
So that would be something to look forward to on a monthly
On a monthly
and even
basis.
next year.
Sir, but what about the importation and the agricultural situation that our DA chief, which is of course our current president, has he been able to implement policies on that front na bumaba yung presyo at least for food products?
Yeah, it's demand supply, Danny, actually. Yeah, it's really kind of strange. It's kind of odd that onion prices, especially during the holidays, reach above 500
Yeah,
pesos.
700 plus na.
Yeah, if you look at, I've been monitoring that for developed countries rather, or at least in North America. It has always been at for mostly at if you translate that, it's 100 pesos or even less than 100 pesos per kilogram, considering the higher cost of living in developed countries, especially in North America. And now it's still it's little change. It's the range is still there. Maybe the more expensive onion variants are close to 200 pesos, but it's already the highest. But the common price is around 80 to 100 pesos equivalent. But it's already, well, because higher wages, higher rents, higher cost of living in developed countries. So it's kind of excessive actually because of the demand supply dynamics. Because this is not really the first time. In another, a few years ago, we saw another commodity like the chili, di ba? The chili labuyo was at some point very expensive also. So it's demand supply actually because of the peculiarities maybe in the country, the storm damage, the series of storms in the latter part of 2022. But hopefully, give it a few months. Of course, the farmers, the producers, they would uh, grab the opportunity to plant more and take and try to. That's an opportunity for them to earn more by planting more and give it a few weeks, a few months if the weather conditions permit. No more storm damage. We're moving towards the summer season. There will be harvest in the early part of this year. So let's see. Those are just unique factors, but of course, that's also coupled with just like and other products and services in the economy. That's partly because of the second round inflation effects. Like sugar, sugar is still kind of elevated because that's still an offshoot of the. Imagine the storm that damaged the sugar producing provinces. That's more than a year ago. That was the latter part of 2021. And of course, that even added the cost of, but of course, they increased production costs for fuel, fertilizer, the derivatives of the
Hindi pa
global
po
commodity
tapos. Yes.
prices. Yeah, but eventually, yeah, yeah, it's really, but of course,
Meant to go down, sir. Oo. Sige, sir.
the market reaction is for them. Yes, so the producers, the planters, they should take advantage at
Of
some
that.
point.
All right. Thank
Yes,
you, sir.
but
So again,
yeah.
as you mentioned, inflation story here was particularly high, especially with the demand in December. But hopefully, with more agricultural support in terms of what we can do to bring back down those prices, coupled with maybe lowering of oil prices or continuing to lower. But again, you mentioned also the threat of China reopening and how that would impact the oil story. A lot to be watching out for here. But thank you, sir, for joining us and giving us an update. And we'll, of course, be getting back to you when those inflation numbers for December will be coming out. Thank you so much, Sir Mike Ricafort, our CBC Chief Economist. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much, Danny, and to your viewers. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. We'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. You're still watching One News Now. I'm Dani Laurel. Now, former Socio-Economic Planning Secretary Ernesto Pernia calls out the country's aviation authorities for, quote, inefficiency following the air traffic glitch. On Twitter, Pernia said the air traffic fiasco cannot be pinned to airlines and was mainly CAAP's fault. He said the agency was, quote, inefficient and lacked anticipation and foresight to prevent the New Year glitch. Pernia also said that officials in charge of critical systems should be forward-looking so that it can avoid fiascos like that of the New Year's. And here are other headlines we're keeping our eyes on. IT BPM firms may still transfer their registration to the Board of Investments until January 31st. The Fiscal Incentives Review Board issued a resolution extending the registration for one more month from December 31st of 2022. The FIRB says this would allow the sector to adopt flexible work arrangements without adverse effects on their tax initiatives. And the Energy Department has unveiled its development priorities for the sector this year. These include the development of a nuclear power roadmap in collaboration with experts and the International Atomic Agency. The DOE added that it will study the possible inclusion of nuclear power to the energy mix by developing small-scale power plants. For more updates, visit News 5, The Philippine Star, and Business World Online, or visit our website, onenews.ph, for more in-depth analysis. You can also catch One News on the Signal Play app. Register for a free account now at www.signalplay.com and stream One News Live anytime, anywhere. Join us again at 2 p.m. I'm Dani Laurel. We are One News, all sides, all the time.